Guys, while an increasing number of prominent Republicans are backing Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, including a former GOP candidate, Carly Fiorina, former Hewlett-Packard CEO who ran against Donald Trump in 2016, is now backing the Biden-Harris ticket. Carly joins us now. Great to have you here with us today, and thanks for taking the time. Let's start with your endorsement of Joe Biden. Why are you choosing to support the Democratic nominee, and are you concerned about his economic policies and tax plans?
Well, you know, I at first publicly said that I would be voting for Joe Biden back in June. It had become clear to me over the course of the previous 6 or 7 months that I could no longer support Donald Trump. I think character counts. I think leadership matters. And as a business person, I judge someone on the results they produce, their leadership, and their behavior. And I think he has honestly failed most leadership tests that have come his way. I am not an apologist for all Democrat policies or the Democrat Party. I do disagree with some of the policies of the Democrat Party, but honestly, I disagree also with some of the policies of the Trump Republican Party. For example, how immigration is being handled, the fact that government is getting larger and larger, the fact that there is more and more power being concentrated in the executive branch, the fact that our debt and deficits are out of control, the fact that Trump has actually failed on many of his foreign policy objectives. So in the end, I think an election offers us a binary choice between two individuals, Joe Biden and Donald Trump. I think Joe Biden has demonstrated through his life that he is a man of character, that he also has both humility and empathy. Those are essential ingredients in a true leader, because it is humility and empathy that allows a leader to collaborate with others. And we have a lot of problems in this country. Joe Biden is, I think, of the two candidates, the only one who's prepared to actually reach his hand across the aisle, sit down, listen to people who don't agree with him, and work together to solve problems. That's what our nation needs now.
Let's discuss the debate last night. Last night, Senator Harris attacked Vice President Pence over the China trade deal, saying the Trump administration lost the trade war. I want to get your reaction, and do you agree?
Well, I do think there's a lot of truth to that, honestly. First of all, I think it was right for Donald Trump to say we are going to have to challenge China and many of their trade practices. That's been true for a long time. It's true now. However, if we're going to be successful in challenging China, we need to be consistent, persistent, and strategic. Donald Trump has been extremely inconsistent. First, he and President Xi were best friends. Then he was slapping tariffs on China. And by the way, American producers and American consumers end up paying for those tariffs, not the Chinese, as he routinely claims. But beyond that, I think what we're seeing is a China that is stronger and more emboldened than they were 3 years ago. You see that with their increased hostility in the South China Sea, their threatening behavior towards Taiwan. They are doing that because they feel stronger, not weaker. And meanwhile, they continue to steal our intellectual property. So if we want to tackle China, and we need to, business and government need to cooperate, which we're not doing right now. And again, we have to be consistent in our pursuit of objectives, persistent in that pursuit, and strategic in how we choose to behave.
You know, staying on this topic, you've been outspoken about the TikTok fight and how it's impacting our relations in China. What do you see as the path forward at this point?
Well, you know, honestly, I'm not sure. I think this has been kind of a very confusing story. Number one, let me just say that I don't think a president of the United States should be personally engaging in deal making on any deal. Now, an administration can have policy, an administration can have rules, an administration can have influence. But for the President of the United States to personally put him in the middle of a deal that American companies are making, I think is not helpful and sets a dangerous precedent. Secondly, my own view is that the Chinese are never going to agree to what President Trump claims he must have. That is to say, I do not think the Chinese will ever agree to letting go of control of the key algorithms of their company. I don't think the Chinese will ever agree to no ownership in an app that serves the largest market they seek to penetrate. So we'll see, but I think it's anyone's guess as to where this deal goes, never mind the fact that Oracle and Walmart think they have a deal.
There have been a lot of conversations, discussions over the balance between tech and the government. I want to get some of your thoughts as we are in this environment where a lot of end consumers, they recognize that there's kind of a free platform that they're leveraging. However, free and a data exchange, there's still an exchange that takes place. And so in this new frontier of tech as we know it, what are you seeing within some of the trends and what should we be focusing our attention on?
Well, first, of course, as is obvious from the news that you read earlier about downloading of apps and people's purchasing of apps, what we know for sure is that the pandemic has accelerated all of the trends in technology, whether it's consumers buying apps or telemedicine. What we also know is that technology has a power, and there is a concentration of power in the tech world that didn't exist 20 years ago. So, 20 years ago, the technology industry could go to Washington, D.C. and say, you know what, hands off, leave us alone. We're an engine of growth for the economy. You don't want to regulate us. Just let us do our thing. We are this center of innovation, and that was true. But now, 20 years later, what you have are gigantic American companies, four to be precise, and we know who they are,
right,
who not only dominate the technology space, but have enormous power in the marketplace and enormous power over consumers. And I think the trend that's most important to watch going forward is there is bipartisan support in Washington, D.C. that something needs to be done about big tech. And so big tech is not going to have an open field going forward, in my view, no matter who wins the White House.
Just very quickly, we only have about 15 seconds here. What do you see as the biggest issue at stake in this election?
The unity of our country. This country has got to come back together. Otherwise, we cannot move forward.
Carly Fiorina, who is the former Hewlett-Packard CEO and 2016 GOP presidential candidate, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it.